Welcome to Em.Powercoaching. Em.Powercoaching combines mental and physical fitness to help you connect the dots to unveil a more confident, energized and empowered version of you. So if you're ready, let's get into today's episode. Hello and welcome to Empowering You with Emma. So great to have you here again for this very late show. I am so sorry, guys. So normally the podcast will be released on a Friday evening, but it is now Sunday. And I think going forward, I'm going to have to change to a Sunday, to be honest, because shit got real. So if you don't know, in the UK, the gyms reopened on Monday, so last week, and it's been a bit of a crazy roll since then. So I work in a gym as a gym manager, as well as a women's holistic ed coach and a fitness trainer as well. So for me, it's been a bit of a whirlwind of a week, let's say. So that's why this podcast is coming out a little bit later than normal. But yes, going forward, I'm probably going to keep it to a Sunday just because then I know that I can more than likely get something out to you guys on a weekend, and it kind of relieves the pressure a little bit from me. So yeah. So in this week's episode, I'm going to be talking about getting back to the gym. I've obviously spent a week there opening the gyms, and I've seen quite a few things this past week, and I've also experienced a few things myself. So we're going to be talking all about that. So today we're going to cover expectations, what to expect going back to gyms at this time, how to avoid injuries, and also how to recover from injuries if you've not quite been able to avoid them completely, and when to hire a PT. They're the three areas that we're going to talk about today. So first of all, let's talk about expectations. What are we expecting going back to the gyms after such a long time off? So for those of you who are outside the UK, we have just had 3 months of closures on lockdown. And so this week is the first week that we have been able to have the gyms reopened. Now, I think a lot of people might have been slightly wary, a little bit concerned about going back to the gyms and the health and safety, even though after all of the research that's come out, gyms have had the lowest transmission rates of the virus, which is awesome news for us fitness freaks. But, there's still a little bit of concern around the gyms. It's a place where people get a bit sweaty, there's a lot of equipment being shared. It's a big open space with a few people in there as well, especially if we're talking about the big chain gyms, which is like what I work in. So yeah, there's been some hesitation, a couple of questions coming around, but in general, it's been so great to see people coming back, especially at our gym in specific. The members have all come back. They've been so excited to get back into the gym and involved as well. Now, at the minute, we're following government guidelines, so you do still have to wear your masks around the gym. So when you enter, when you leave, in common member areas, toilets, changing rooms, that kind of thing. So do expect that. So make sure that you have your masks at the ready. When it comes to exercising, it's kind of up to you whether you want to wear your mask or not, but it has been advised by the World Health Organization that you don't wear a mask whilst working out, because obviously you're restricting the airflow and it could therefore create further health problems. But again, that's entirely up to the individual and what you feel comfortable in doing. So if you are going to be going back to the gym, if you haven't already, just make sure that you have that mask in your bags. Now, as far as busyness goes, every gym is going to be different. So I'm just going to talk about the experience that I've had at the gym that I work at. Now, it's never really been an overly busy gym anyway. And what we've seen, most of the members have come back. They've got straight back into the routine of it. And so we're kind of looking at the similar peak times that we had pre-lockdown. So early mornings around 7-8 a.m. and then in the evenings from 5 p.m. onwards. Still looking at those at being your peak time. So if you're a little bit hesitant about going into a gym at this time because of a lot of people being in one space, then I would probably avoid those times if you can, and try and opt for a very, very early workout, before 7 a.m. A really late workout anytime after 9 p.m. or if you can get in the afternoon, then perfect. Also, weekends seem to be a bit quieter as well, so that could be a choice for you. Other than that, the only other thing to expect is the cleaning of equipment is really down to you as well as an individual. So each gym will have a cleaning team. The staff will be going around cleaning the equipment. You'll see this in most gyms. And they'll also have a team of professional cleaners that come in either through the daytime or through the nighttime, sometimes both. But members are still expected to clean down their own equipment. So definitely bear that in mind. I don't believe that you can bring your own cleaning stuff, but most gyms will have that provided for you as well. So I would probably factor that into your workout, because what I've found is that wiping down the equipment after every time you've used it, and sometimes you have to walk to a cleaning station to get the stuff and then walk back. It does add up some extra time onto your workout as well. So if your workout program is usually about an hour long, let's say, it might be that you want to schedule in an hour and 15 minutes or an hour and 10 minutes just to allow for that extra time with cleaning the equipment afterwards. Now, with having time off the gym for so long, so again, it was 3 months that we've pretty much had away from the gyms. If you were using the gym prior to the lockdown quite a lot and you're just coming back to it again, I don't know, I guess there's some advice that I would have for you when it comes to getting back into your workouts. So a lot of people will have really enjoyed the type of programming that they were doing prior to lockdown and might be eager to get back to that same style, which is absolutely fine, but there may be some adjustments that you need to make. So let's have a look at these adjustments. So number one, it might be that if you were training on heavier weights, let's say you've been doing squats and you managed to hit the 100 kilogram club, maybe when you go back to the gym, the first time that you do squats, you might want to look at reducing that to let's say 70 kilograms. Just work it out for yourself. Everyone's going to be different with regards to how much strength they might have lost. But either way, what's not ideal is having the mindset of you're going to go back and you're going to do the exact same weight that you did prior to lockdown. This is where the risk of injury can definitely be heightened. So it's definitely good to try and stick to the same goals that you were having, but you do have to bear in mind that, it's been a long time that you've had off. And if you've not had access to equipment, especially over this time, then chances are you will have lost some strength. And on top of that, you may have the quality of your form and technique may have reduced as well, just by simply not practicing the movements for so long. So the risk is definitely increased, and you really do need to bear that in mind when you go back into the gym. So if you're wanting to see where your strength is at, and if you're still in the 100k squat club, then I would probably just work your way up slowly. Do your warm-up sets as usual, and maybe just add in a couple of extra warm-up sets that you normally would to just increase the weight as you get back up to that 100k. And then you'll know. So for example, if you get to 80 or 90 kilograms, you'll know whether that's feeling too much or whether you think that you can push that a little bit further to the 100k. Now, number two is thinking about the style of training that you were doing before. So if you were doing lots of supersets, trisets, giant sets, so this is where we do more than one exercise back to back without a break, which is lots and lots of benefits to that style of training, but it is definitely for the more intermediate and advanced trainers. And if you were doing this before, then you might find that it may be a little bit too much to be going straight back into. But again, everyone's different, everyone's unique, and you really have to figure it out for yourself. But personally, if I was saying to my client, for example, who may have been doing trisets and supersets prior to lockdown, and we were going back into the first week, I would probably take that away and reduce those sets down to just basic sets where you just do one exercise per set and that's it. I think, again, while we're just building up the strength and kind of figuring out where your body is at, you don't really want to be pushing it too far. And then number 3, we want to be looking at splits. So the way that you split your program has a huge effect on the overall intensity and volume over the course of the week. So let's, for example, say you were exercising 5 times a week, and maybe you were doing push-pull legs, push-pull, something similar to that, okay? On that first week back, it may be a good idea just to reduce the amount of volume and intensity that you were doing prior, and perhaps maybe just train 3 or 4 times a week. And these workouts could be full body, so you could just do a couple of exercises per body part per workout. And then this way, we're not overloading and putting too much stress on the muscle as we go straight in upon your return to the gym. Now, another thing that I really want to talk about is avoiding injuries or preventing injuries from happening. We've seen this quite a lot on the reopening, because this is the 3rd reopening now, I think, of the gyms in the UK anyway. And on each first week back, I have witnessed at least one fairly major injury happen within the gym. So last week we had a guy who was doing bench press, and he'd obviously gone just like straight in on it. He'd gone onto the weight that he was using before we went into lockdown. I don't think he really did much of a warm-up set either, okay? So he loads up the bar and he goes in for the move, and basically it's just too heavy. So he manages to get it up to the top, but then as he's lowering the bar back down, he loses control, and something snaps, as he stated, or felt like it snapped in his chest. So he drops the bar and it lands down and falls off the bench. Now, when we went over to go and speak to him to see what had happened, it was very clear that he'd torn his pec muscle. So it was bulging, it'd risen up to the top, and it completely torn away. And I mean, to recover from an injury like that, you're looking at an extremely long time off the gym. We're talking months. So unfortunately for this poor guy, he's pushed himself a little bit too hard, and now as a result of that, he's got even more time that he's probably going to have to spend away from the gym, or at least away from training that specific muscle area, which is devastating because it's like we've just got back open and back into it. So my heart really does go out to him, but it's a lesson for everyone that this is something that you can avoid if you just take it easy, test the waters for the first week or so, and just try and figure out where your body is at, and the current situation, let's say, of your body. So again, the best way to avoid that kind of injury is just to start low, start at a safe weight, build your way up, and do it very, very gradually until you know and feel 100% confident that you can rep it out at that weight that you were on before. Now, I did actually experience a injury of my own. So yes, very hypocritical of me to be doing this podcast. But I wanted to share my story with you so that you could hear about what I'd done, that I'm just keeping it real, and that, maybe we can all learn from Emma's mistakes as well. So what happened to me is that I went in to do some calf raises. Now, I have had access to equipment over the lockdown, so I've still been training. So I guess, I don't know, maybe I was a little bit cocky when I went back into the gym thinking, oh, well, I've still been training, so I'm going to be fine. There's no problem whatsoever. I think maybe I just kind of overshot it a little bit. And the thing is with this calf machine, the one that we've got at the gym, is that it's an incline, whereas the one that I've been using is like a seated one. So it's like you sat in a chair and then you're lifting your knees up and down. So not only is the movement different, so the actual positioning different. So yeah, of course it's going to hit the muscle different. On top of that, I thought it would be a great idea to add in a couple of drop sets. Now, a drop set is where you'll do your main set at the heaviest weight that you want to do. And then once you've hit failure on that, when you can't do any more reps, you then drop the weight and you continue repping it out until, again, you can't do any more at that weight. You drop the kilogram weight again and you rep it out again until failure. So at the time, this seemed like a great idea. I wanted to push my calves a little bit more and, make the most of having access, let's say, to that piece of equipment again. And I thought I was going to be fine because I'd been training my calves over lockdown. But the combination of the two, so the drop set, which I didn't do drop sets on my calves prior to lockdown. I just did basic sets where you just do one set, rest, another set. So I'd increased the intensity and I'd switched up the positioning of the exercise as well. And as a result of that, I spent the rest of the week hobbling around with the most insane pain in my calf muscle. And honestly, I still don't really know what happened. I don't know. I mean, it's not that painful anymore. I managed to get some ibuprofen cream and put it on, and that was great. But I couldn't even touch it. One night I got up in the middle of the night, I went to go for a wee, and I stepped out of bed and I collapsed because they just seized up. So I was definitely angry. Well, not angry. I was disappointed in myself for doing that, for getting myself to that state. And, lesson learned. You really can't just go back in and just max out intensity and change up your movements just like that and not expect this kind of stuff to happen. So then I guess on top of that, with having injuries and making sure that we're not increasing the intensity and volume too quickly on the first couple of weeks back, is to really think about recovery as well. It might be that you need to spend more time recovering in between workouts. So if you were doing 3 days on, 1 day off, it might be that maybe you need to do 2 days on, 1 day off, or 2 days on, 2 days off, that kind of thing. It might just mean that you need to have more recovery time in between. And especially if you've ended up having COVID yourself, as we know, as they're speaking about now in the news, a lot of people are suffering with symptoms of long COVID where there's been reports of people feeling extreme fatigue, weakness in the joints and the muscles, and generally not feeling very energized. And so this has affected young people as well, older people, younger people, fit and healthy people who were gymming before. So it's affected everyone. And that's definitely something to look out for, because you might find that, maybe you can't push to the intensity that you were doing before, and maybe you do need to have a little bit of extra recovery time in between your sets as well. Maybe, if you're doing 1 minute in between your sets, you might need to increase that to 2 minutes in between your sets. So recovery is really, really important, and, to make sure that you're getting enough sleep. Everyone's different, they say to aim for 8 hours a night, but some people can get away with 7, some people need 9. It's whatever works for you. Just make sure that you get enough sleep to recover, that you're eating enough protein, enough carbohydrates, that you're keeping yourself well hydrated with plenty of water, taking magnesium where possible if you need that. All of these different things that are really required for optimal recovery. Definitely think about putting more of a focus on that for sure. And then, again, if you do happen to unfortunately have an injury or gain an injury, and then of course, if you do unfortunately happen to get an injury from working out in the gym, then, definitely rest it up. Try not to push back because, the gyms are open and we don't know when they're going to close again. I'm just going to push through this injury. Don't do it. You need to just be patient with yourself, allow yourself to recover, and let that injury heal, because if you keep pushing through it, then for all we know, you could make it even worse, and a couple of weeks could become a couple of months. Now, with all that being said, it might be worth hiring a PT. So whether you're new and you're getting back into the gym, or whether you're intermediate to advanced but you've had 3 months off of training with no access to equipment, let's say, then it may be worth hiring a PT just to either help you with the basics, if you're a newbie for sure. If you're intermediate to advanced, then maybe the PT can help you just to work on your form and your technique, and just to make sure that you're still working with the correct form and technique. It might be that you are suffering with a lack of motivation from having 3 months off, so you just need that little boost, someone to kick you up the bum for a little bit. Could also be COVID transformations. There's many fit people who were absolutely smashing the gym and their goals prior to the lockdown, and then what do they call it, the COVID calories came along and kind of took over, and we've been moving less, so we've been eating more, and some people are coming back to the gym and they're like, oh, what have I done? What have I done to myself? So maybe hiring a PT just to kind of have that COVID transformation, go change back and get back to how you were before. But I think it's definitely a good idea to really think about getting a PT for any of those reasons, whether you're new, whether you need to work on your form and technique again and just make sure it's still there, that you're still doing it right, just to avoid injury, and to help with motivation, at least in that initial first month back, or maybe, spending a couple of months with a PT just to, transform yourself back to how you were before, or just for that transformation that maybe you're desiring anyway. So there we go. That's, very quick podcast today. Well, I say very quick. We're actually pretty much the same time as what they usually are. But yeah, I really wanted just to cover those 3 areas. So we spoke about expectations, what to expect when going back to the gyms at this time. How to avoid injuries where possible, and how to recover from injuries if you do so happen to have one, and then when to maybe hire a PT when that might be a good time for you to do that as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this show, and I hope you've enjoyed your first week back at the gym for those of you who have been back. I would absolutely love to hear about your experiences this week. How have you got on? What's your gym like? Because everyone's gym's different. Have you enjoyed being back? Have you found that your fitness levels are just as they were before, and that you're still hitting the same PBs on your big lifts? Or have you found it to be maybe quite a daunting experience, that it's actually not been quite as enjoyable as it used to be? Let me know, because I would just love to hear how your experience has been. And, like I say, I actually incurred an injury myself, and I hope that no one else has. But if you do need some advice on, what to do and how to avoid that, if you're concerned that might happen, then definitely reach out to me and let me know. So thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Empowering You with Emma. Again, we're going to be moving this show to a Sunday night, so each podcast episode will be released on a Sunday night. If you've not already subscribed, definitely do that now, because then you'll get a notification directly to your phone so that you can gain first access of these episodes as soon as they are released. Please keep sharing this podcast, because it's really great to be able to see how this is reaching out to many different people. And obviously, the more people that we can reach, then the more people that I can be helping, which is fantastic. It's why I do this podcast in the first place. You can also screenshot the podcast on your phone and share it on your stories on social media. That's great. But please don't forget to tag me in them, because then I can see that you've done it and allows me to be able to connect with you as well. And just to say thank you, thank you for sharing the podcast and for being a supporter. As always, if you have any questions about anything that I have discussed on tonight's show or any other show in the podcast, then reach out to me. You can email me at Em.Powercoachingteam@gmail.com. I'm also on Instagram, Em.Powercoaching UK. The same for Facebook, Em.Powercoaching UK. And all of those links are going to be found in the show notes anyway. So you can just click on there and come and say hello and connect with me on my social. I'd also really love to know if you have any requests for further podcast episodes. So is there anything that you would really like me to talk about, to discuss and cover? Then definitely let me know and send those ideas over as well. Thank you very much for joining me this evening. I hope you have a really lovely week, and I will connect with you again next Sunday. Bye.